All right. Good morning, everyone. Uh, today's the Center for Responsible Business is bringing today's LinkedIn Live session as part of its seventh annual flagship Sustainable Business Conference, which is the India and Sustainability Standards 2020. This year, we'll be holding the conference virtually from the 28th to the 30th of October in partnership with the Friedrich Naumann Foundation. This is also the second LinkedIn Live session that we are doing in partnership with FNF. Both CRB and FNF are working towards the common agenda of responsible business. And to this effect, today we will be having an interesting session where we'll be talking about how businesses are integrating responsible business practices in their functioning and the kind of approaches or models they're adopting in a post-COVID world. Interestingly, in today's life, to share his experiences with us, we have Mr. Rajesh Singh. He's founder, director, Farm Solutions Private Limited. He describes himself as a farmer by birth, manufacturer by chance, and an entrepreneur by choice. Facilitating this conversation will be Mr. Subodh Agarwal. He has been associated with the foundation for close to 20 years now, and he's been looking after one of the economic initiatives of bringing entrepreneurs on board to discuss solutions to restart economies after COVID-19. The conference theme this year is sustainability, a key to business resilience in an uncertain world. The theme was chosen to reflect the reality of how this pandemic has affected the already vulnerable, the already marginalized, and how all stakeholders need to come together to build back better. At the Center for Responsible Business, we firmly believe that every stakeholder is vital to this rebuilding process. And with that, I would now like to invite Mr. Singh and Subodh to take us forward and carry on with discussion. Subodh, over to you.
Thank you, Shreya.
Thank you, Shreya.
Rajesh, welcome to the session.
Thank you, Subodh.
As Shreya has aptly described you, you're a farmer by birth, manufacturer by choice, and entrepreneur. Manufacturer by chance and entrepreneur by choice. Right. That's a very very remarkable journey into your professional and personal life. I have known you personally, and you started off, as she also said, as an agriculturist. And then from there, you moved on in your journey to become a manufacturer, largely into the food processing industry. And lately, you have also become an entrepreneur in terms of an online startup, where you are trying to, use the digital platforms as a successful entrepreneur. Now, your foray has been from agriculture to manufacturing and to the services sector. This is a logical and sequential ascent in the value chain and also in the life of a person. Your enterprising qualities actually portray this upgrade that you have moved from one section to the other sector in terms of your business. We today are here to talk about responsible business and responsible business practices. And as you know, this is a prelude to the forthcoming India and Sustainability Standards Conference, which is going to be held from October 28th to 30th. I would like to know, Rajesh, that in your moving up the chain, there must have been a lot of business decisions that you had to take. And not just business decisions, but you also need to look at how businesses are being conducted. What is your experience personally in the role of conducting responsible business when you have this whole experience behind you? And what you feel, should business be responsible or only look at the profit motive?
Thank you, Subodh. That was really elaborate. I never really have ever thought about myself in such a sequential and a linear way. So you take decisions and you move on. Yes, subconsciously, because you also, as you said, the responsibility part, the responsibility just does not lie only with the immediate workers that you are associated with, but with the, by and large, the society. So you start off with what you are given, the resources that are available with you, the situation that you are in. and the possibilities that are available at that particular time. And then you try to make the most of the resources that are available. You make mistakes, then you move on. But I think every businessman, every entrepreneur is basically a reflection of the aspirations of a lot of other of the society at large. So uh, what every businessman, every agriculturist, every farmer, a farmer would actually grow what the populace would demand to eat or to store. And so he has to basically evaluate between what can be grown in his land in a particular weather, given the resources that he has, and what does the market demand. So he's addressing to the demands and aspirations of the market, and there is this give and take and balancing and experimentation and failures and successes that just moves on. So in a way, so does the manufacturer. The manufacturer also looks at the discrepancy in the demand and supply, and he tries to meet that, and eventually we just move on. Mostly because at the core of your thought process, at the core of any activity that you do, you would want to meet the demand of the aspiring, meet the demand of the people. So it is not just about profiteering. I also understand that as far as the businesses are concerned, their sole motive is to earn profit. It is only because they would earn profit, they would be able to survive and take the aspirations a little further. Uh, Businesses, as far as I understand, they are not just aspirations for just the demand, the supplier and the buyer, but also the aspirations of millions and thousands of people who are associated with each and every industry, directly or indirectly. Yeah.
So let me just put it up in a slightly different context. You know, as a liberal, and you have been a liberal throughout your life, uh, liberals believe in freedom. Yeah, but there's a very important element that goes with freedom, and that is responsibility. And whenever we're talking about economic growth, whenever we're talking about economics taking over or other factors in a social context, businessmen always have been talking about the freedom that they would like to do. And this whole laissez faire concept that we've heard in the world is not just freedom, but, but freedom with responsibility. That's what liberals believe in. And my question to you now, coming back specifically, is that you talked about the society in general that business is an entity of and is also responsible for. Are there any particular steps that you as an entrepreneur have taken, especially with respect to the employees, with the labor that you have employed, with the people that you have employed, with your staff, and also largely towards the greater society in which a business entity is operating, that is, your entity is operating? So, what are your personal experiences, and how would you define in your perception what would be a good business practice to become more and more responsible uh, towards other stakeholders in the society?
Largely as far as uh, see that the two my personal belief is that there are two ways to look at things. In India, we have a term called Shubh Labh. So we actually call Labh as profit, as in the well-being of everything. So it is the profiteering which will benefit everybody. So if you, first of all, this has to be kept in mind. So it is because you are going to profit, you will be able to take care of everybody around you. If you are not profiteering, you will close down eventually. So if you close down eventually, you are not going to benefit the society or anybody around you. So one aspect is Shubh Labh, as in profit is good and it should be pursued. And the other part is because profit is important and you aspire to meet the demands and aspirations of society at large through profiteering, the responsibility comes by itself. Now, the it is a hypocrisy, especially in the Indian society, that we consider profiteering as a bad word, when in the core concept, actually it is Shubh Labh. So when you look at a businessman, you want to believe that he's somehow he's uh, a crony. He's not. He doesn't take justified means. So, but it is just the other way around. The businessman perhaps and being a farmer at the back end of all the receiving evils of the society, actually, and considered to be a poor farmer and somebody who's committing suicide and all that. But I consider all businesses associated with any kind of activities, they are doing more justice to the society than anybody else I know. Not that doctors or engineers or anybody, any service industry are not doing enough, but businesses and business enterprises are the most important fundamental uh, backbone of a society, which have to work on responsibility. So that is the trust that the society has to put on every businessman. That is how it has worked throughout. It is simply because once in a while we just don't try to trust them, and we bring out saying that businessmen want only profit, and they do not take care of the practices, the good practices, as far as responsibility is concerned towards their employees or towards their suppliers or towards the market or the consumers, which I do not feel is correct. Yes, there could be one section of a business, as in and kind of an abrasion, where you would find people breaking laws, or you would find people misusing the system. But eventually, by and large, most of the society has to be trusted, and that is what they work on. Uh, Moreover, see, when at every step that we work on, see, including our field laborers or the industry workers, so there are certain laws that we need to adhere to, and sometimes laws become so unwanted, and they become a stress on ourselves. So you have labor department, you have, like, you need to, if you need to run a manufacturing industry in India, you would land up needing something like 20 to 30 licenses, right from weights and measures to factory inspectors to pollution control to God knows who all. So and all of them, they're all there to close the industry. I mean, none of them, they are there to actually help you set up and prosper. So you have to survive in this industry in spite these 30 people who are there to come and tell you, oh, you don't have enough windows, so I'll shut you down. You don't have enough ventilation of toilets, I can shut you down. So but because we suppose, if it is about windows and toilets, it is us and the our workers that we need to take care of them. We understand their hygiene or their issues, especially during the COVID era, right from because we realize that uh, unfortunately or fortunately, I belong to a state where migrant laborers were coming back. So we were rather happy for the fact that we'll have more of labor force with us because all of these people who had moved on. But then there was this aura of fear, ambiguity. We had no idea what COVID would bring in. With how many people would be dying and what situations would we be incurring, and there was a lot of confusion. There still is, but I guess today we are much more. In 9 months' time, we are much more used to it. So right from day one, what we did is we made special packages, including sanitizers or masks and food grains and packets. We thought that because the entire country is being shut down for a month or two, the movement of grains and essentials is going to be an issue. So we were distributing to our employees and to other people who would be associated with them, and that went on for months. And then we realized the issue was not about supply of food grain. That was not an issue anymore. So we had to cut it down. And then the issue of migrant laborers coming back, and they had no place to stay, because in the villages and the rural areas, people who were coming back were all suspected as carriers of coronavirus. And there's a lot of prejudice in the rural areas. So a lot of these people who were coming in were not really looked up to. Nobody wanted them back in the villages, and they were ostracized. So we had to figure out that there could be a social impact on this. So we set up quarantine centers for the relatives of the workers that who were associated with us in the villages and the people. So these quarantine centers were, even before government had started the quarantine centers, we set up our a lot of our buildings and places and supplying them normal food and all that. So we understood that there is a, you have to connect with the society at large. So it is not just like fleecing the society and taking out the profits. If your profits and if your uh, business enterprise eventually uh, is not able to give it back to the society, the profiteering does not make much of sense. It will not really last long. So it, and also what happens, the goodwill that you earn the by knowing the pulse of the society. If you're at the raw end of it, if you're at the basic foundation of it, you know what exactly you can think of a step, little 2 steps ahead of what a large government would ever do, because there are decision making processes, a lot of time is wasted, and a lot of things that and government for that matter, they would only uh, take decisions on the, based on the fact that I mean, who are the voters? I mean, are they sufficing the uh, making their own individual constituencies and voters happy? Is it needing it? But as far as businesses are concerned, they are the first ones to look after uh, not just their immediate employees, but the contractual employees, their suppliers, giving out advances, giving out even not one day we would cut down anybody's salaries, or even when factories were shut down. We have a seasonal food processing unit which lasts, which starts from March, April and goes on to July, say mangoes and lychees and all of this. And this year we could not process a single kilo, simply because there was no movement. The transportation movement was not there, and we were fearing. So we lost the entire production this year. Uh, uh, but nonetheless, the people who are associated with us have been associated throughout. So we try to improvise them into doing other things, a little bit of construction here and there, and semi-processing, or just waiting till this whole era is past out. So these are the steps. I think this is just not just about me. I think a lot of people um, throughout the country have done similar things. In fact, if you look at the Bihar, because the trains are still not running, but if you look at the Bihar airport right now, you would see. I think I don't have the data right now, but because last few months I've been traveling up and down from the Patna airport, there are uh, tens and thousands of workers who are flying every day out of Patna. This is festive season, this is election time. And during this festive season, election time, and tens and thousands of labor class, complete worker class is moving out of Patna airport to different parts of the country, all over the place. Jammu, Kashmir, South India, everywhere. You see hordes and hordes till 12 in the night. The flights are packed, packed. And these people would have never afforded a airplane ever in their life, but it is the employees based in South India or Haryana or Jammu Kashmir or wherever, they are bringing these people back. People who walked, all these laborers had walked back home, and they took them months to walk back home, but trains are not functioning, and now the employees are calling them back home. So I think this is responsible business. This is responsible business.
Let me just confront you with certain things that you've said. The whole hypocrisy thing that you said, that businesses are bad, and this is the mindset in India. There is a reason why this mindset has come about. And if you notice, when businesses were earlier operating, about probably 30 years earlier or 40 years earlier, there was a tendency from most businesses, I would say, not all, but most businesses, that they would employ exploitative tendencies. Now, that is what has given rise to a number of laws also, which you mentioned. You should have good working conditions. I mean, that is one step towards being responsible towards your workforce, towards having a clean or better environment where the people are working. So, would you say that we should not have laws and the businesses would automatically take responsibility, because this has not happened. I mean, we've had to introduce laws so that businesses also start understanding the importance of workers and not being too exploitative. So, what we are essentially talking about is that a business has to understand that they also have a responsibility towards different organs of the society, whether it's their workers, whether it's their competitors, whether it's their supply chain suppliers, and the consumers in general, or the society in general. So, what would you feel about
You
introducing
see,
laws?
I remember reading Aditya Birla's interview many years back that on his 21st birthday, his father, um, Aditya Birla's father, I'm forgetting Mr. Birla's name, he gave him a permit to open a factory. So on his 21st birthday, the most important birthday gift that he could ever get was a permit to open a factory. So I'm sure you're aware that right through the 60s and 70s and almost till the end of 80s, the 30 years, more than 30 years of Indian socialism, we were issuing permits, and there were quotas even to manufacture shirts, bread, milk, anything and everything. You had to take permission to manufacture. You could not overproduce. If you had say 5,000 meters of terracotta, you could produce, and that is the permit that you got. So, and then over that there was 90% taxes. The taxes at one particular time were almost 90%. So when you have 90% taxes and you have permits of having manufacturing opened up, then how do you expect businesses to survive? So businesses have they can't employ more than certain amount. Like right now, suppose if I was to start a unit, and the moment the number of employees go up from go more than 20, I need to have a provident fund. Most of the people, if you pay less than 15,000 rupees, then you have to have a provident fund. If you pay more than 15,000, it is not imperative to have a provident fund. So there are so many laws. Okay, government is the general, the people of the country would actually want like sarkar, a government is like a my bap sarkar, so they would look after them. But if that becomes imperative, if that becomes just a certification, if that becomes circumventing the law, that becomes like an easy out for the industry, because then he can just show certificates and say that I am responsible, and not being responsible. So I can do everything bad in the society, but I have certificates to prove that I am responsible enough. Now see, the point is, I am not saying that government is needed or not needed. That is another question altogether. But you need governance to the minimum. You cannot be poking your nose anywhere and everywhere for everything, right from the size of the toilets to the height of the toilets to the number. I mean, these are things which are not really essential and required. I mean, in 30 years of the socialist era, right till Manmohan Singh liberalized the Indian economy, those were like really bad times for the Indian industry. Anybody who survived through those 30 years still managed to pursue it. He had no choice but to circumvent the law or be in that side. That is how George Fernandez and the labor movement in Calcutta and in Bombay and shutting down of the mills and all the unions and all that started. Simply because there was a I mean, do you see any in the 2020? Do you see any industrial workers union doing a revolution anywhere in the country, or anywhere for that matter? It's not, because it is the businesses which are taking care of them. They consider them to be a part of their enterprise. They offer them stakeholdings, and they offer them, there's so many things. There are bonuses, and any time that, and the best part is, it is the industrial force and the workers who understand that it today, the public sector enterprise, the PUS, the Air India, and the Coal India, and all these Navratnas, You talk to their employees, they are profit oriented. They know for that fact that if I was, if I would not perform, I would be given a VRS immediately, and there is an option of VRS. So
Okay.
all the time.
So
Yeah.
essentially, basically, what we are seeing is that over a period of time, businesses have evolved to become more and more responsible without also the interference of the government at times.
No,
Let me
I would correct you there. So both businesses were always much more evolved than any of us. That is why all this development and all this movement and cross-country cosmopolitization all over the world has happened. It is the governments which have interfered and put their nose everywhere. No, they want to. It is an entity which wants to survive and to be known that okay, I am doing this much for you. But businesses have been there for thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years. Even when there was no immigration, no check at the airport, people were taking boats and selling silk to rest of the world, or for that matter, spices, without any help from Spices Board of India. So it was happening.
So basically, I think we are hinting at that the business of the government is not to be in business.
Absolutely, absolutely. Most of this conversation would not be needed. Actually, not be needed if you could just ask the government to do its own job. If it was a facilitator, and the point is because they keep pointing fingers at the businesses' houses and they're telling the world that they would fleece you. Don't trust them. Don't trust them. So it's the public perception. So businesses have become like villains, which they are not.
Yes, yes, I agree. Now, very briefly, Rajesh, we're running out of time here. I would like to also close this session because it's been wonderful listening to you. There's one little thing that I want you to answer, and very briefly, we're running out of time. COVID has brought in a dynamic shift in thinking and in the social fabric of our society everywhere. Do you think businesses have adopted themselves to such unprecedented kind of a situation? And going forward, businesses will be far more careful, far more responsible, and far more, looking or taking care of not just the business part, but also their important responsibilities towards the society as well. Very briefly, Rajesh, and then we close.
Oh, of course, of course. As far as COVID is concerned, the pandemic has completely evolved. There is still confusion, but most of the confusion in 9 months' time has been taken care of. The technology has taken over. You see, most of the people, all of us are working from home, and it is all right with the managements. We have started looking to, because we know that life is fragile. You don't know who's going to last for how long, and he's only going to be there, or he or she is only going to be there till he's been taken care of back home and forth. So we have employees who haven't come to work for months and months, and we are still taking their attendances. So I think it is not just me, it's the entire country. Inclusion of technology, giving more space to the employees, and taking care of their families and their families, going all the way back. It is not just the immediate employee, but the families of the employees who are being looked after. This is a remarkable change. This is a remarkable change, and really a welcome change.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rajesh. I could have gone on and on with you, but there's a time limitation that we have.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. You were wonderful in your responses. I hand it back to Shreya. Shreya, please.
Thank you, Subodh.
Great. Thank you, Subodh. Thank you, Mr. Singh. I agree. We could have gone on and on, but because we have a bit of a time constraint here, we'll have to close this. But to carry forward this discussion, we have a dedicated high-level plenary planned on the 29th of October, again in partnership with FNF. Between 2 to 3:30 p.m. So everybody who's tuned in, please do join us at 2 p.m. on the 29th of October. That session will bring forth perspectives from different stakeholders, and we'll talk about what entails responsible business. So once again, thank you, Subodh. Thank you, Rajesh. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, Shreya.